So I recently had a client come to me and she was super frustrated because she felt like she kept getting taken advantage of. You know, a lot of my clients are service providers and they really desire to take care of their clients and to provide a good service. They genuinely care about doing a good job. And I truthfully believe that this is one of the reasons why I have built the success that I have is by genuinely caring about people. That's the exact answer that I say when somebody asks me is I'm like, you just have to really care. And I think that sometimes that's lost when we're so focused on building success. And so this client came to me, she was very frustrated and just feeling like she was getting taken advantage of. She was doing a lot of work that was outside the scope. She wanted to provide a really good experience. She felt bad telling people no and that things were outside of the scope. She felt bad, charging people more when they were already clients. And it led her down this continuous path of frustration, which eventually led to resentment. And truthfully, she was just not fully being paid for her value and the worth that she was providing clients. And so it's taking her time, it's taking her energy, it's taking her expertise. And then it becomes the expectation for the client. So a lot of times a client was asking for something and then they would ask for something else. And then it's this continued pile on. And she had basically set the standard of, if you work with me, I will do anything and everything that you want me to. And that's where a lot of business owners get stuck because we're so afraid of disappointing people or making people upset that we sacrifice ourselves and our well-being and our boundaries. And so today, I really want to talk about that gray area of creating a really good service, providing really good customer service and client care, while also honoring your boundaries, while also being able to ask for what you deserve and what that looks like and what we need to do. And so I know that a lot of business owners have been stuck in this place before. I have been there. And what I know is that it's based in fear. Again, we are people pleasers. We are perfectionists. We care so much about what people think and providing a good service that it sometimes can work against us. And so I'm not going to tell you to abandon that because that is at the core of everything that I do is that genuine care. But what I am going to tell you to do is to evaluate the reasons why you're saying yes, right? So there are so many challenges that come up when we continue to just say yes to clients out of fear of losing the client or disappointing the client. And there are things that we can put in place that can alleviate this, that are preventative, so this doesn't keep happening. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. But really, the most important thing is to know that we have to have boundaries. And honestly, we know this. Like, I feel like I've never recorded an episode or had a client session where the word boundaries didn't come up. And it's something that we logically know. But once again, it is one thing to set a boundary. It's one thing to have an idea of a boundary that you want to set. It's another thing to actually implement it, to set it, to hold it, to ask for accountability, to hold it, to sit through the discomfort of holding a boundary. Because a lot of people don't talk about that. It's like, and that's why we logically know I need to set better boundaries. I need to say no. Like, yes, okay, we know this, but why isn't it happening? It's not happening because we are trying to preserve our own emotions of the discomfort of sitting in, wow, I disappointed somebody. Wow, I made somebody upset. Wow, I feel guilty for choosing myself. And that's what we have to get rid of. If we keep operating from a place of fear, from a place of scarcity, from a place of not enoughness, then we keep ending up in the same spot. And so the great thing about this, even with my client in this discussion, is that we have, again, so much control and power over what we can do in these circumstances. And there is a place in which we can provide that really good service and we can honor ourselves. So I want to talk about that today, and just with the prefacing everything with the importance of boundaries, because without boundaries, we have nothing. And no matter where you are in your business journey, you probably need to tighten up your boundaries. You probably need to honor your word to yourself and your promises to yourself better than you are right now. And so if anything, it's a call to action for that, right? And that when we feel powerless, when we feel defeated, when we feel frustrated, when we feel resentful, when we are struggling emotionally and it feels like we are victims to our business, that means that we are not taking personal accountability. And when we take personal accountability, when we take ownership for being the position that we're in, then we get our power back. And so, first and foremost, in the situation of navigating good client care and boundaries and what does this look like, when you are in an emotionally heightened state as a leader, the best thing that you can do is come back to you. Because when you feel out of control, then you feel reactive. And we don't want to be reactive leaders. We don't want to make decisions reactively, because that is what is creating a lot of dysfunction in business. What we don't want to do is we don't want to work for free. We need to, when things are coming in, when requests are coming in, be that from a client, an opportunity, we need to really weigh out the responsibility of that and if it is aligned with what our long-term goal is. And this is a lens that I'm going to ask you to wear moving forward, is a lens of longevity, a lens of thinking about the long term. Too often we are making decisions based on the short term, based on what we think will get us there quicker, faster, now. And it's very short-sighted. And these are the things that keep us in this place of resentment and frustration. So in the case of providing this good client experience, what we need to do is we really need to know what our boundaries are. We need to know what our expectations are, and we need to be sharing those with our client. And so an example of this is when a client signs on with me, one of the first things they get is my welcome packet. And in that welcome packet is basically it's expectations and an FAQ. So it's common questions that people will ask, areas where people are getting confused, any sort of information that would be helpful to them to know that will also help me to field any sort of questions, that provides clarity for them, along with expectations of what communications look like, what is expected from them in order to get the results that they want, what they can expect of me. And including this right up front really sets the stage. And so something I want you to do in your business is think about when you first, bring a new client in, how are you setting those expectations? What are you delivering to them that provides them clarity, that gives them a full picture of what they can expect? If we go into anything with murkiness, then we can expect it to not feel good. And so clarity is something that a lot of people are lacking. And if things aren't clear, then expectations are based on assumptions. And if expectations are based on assumptions, there is a higher percentage of disappointment. And that is not what we want. We want to provide a good service. So we need to give them the definition of here's what my good service is, here are the parameters, and here's what you can expect. And so you need to deliver that in ideally verbal and written form to every client and customer before they start with you. There's a lot of different areas where boundaries are being blurred, right? And we see this a lot in what's called scope creep, right? So where it's like, we'll just add that little thing on. And so something else that I want you to do is not only provide those expectations and that clarity up front when a client comes in, so you are setting the stage for the future. I also want you to have a clear picture and know for yourself where your line is. And so this is something that is more internal, but we still need some sort of accountability to. And so there are like there are ways that you can over deliver to a client, but you need to be in control of what those ways are, right? When we don't set clear expectations from the front, then we want to over deliver because that's who we are. And so then it becomes by the client's request. Versus if we know here are the ways that I over deliver and will do things that maybe are not included in the scope, be that a certain type of welcome gift or at the end of their contract, something special that you do, something that is not included. These things need to be things that do not cause resentment for you. It needs to be something that is, one of my client calls them like her special delights. So you get to choose, how do you want to delight people? What is going to be your unique highlight or little ray of sunshine for your clients and customers that is above and beyond? Because at the end of the day, we do need to be over delivering and meeting or exceeding expectations. The problem is that it's very hard for us to meet or exceed expectations that are unsaid, right? And so that is why we set expectations and give clarity from the front. This in itself truly will drastically change your business, because then when somebody comes and asks for something outside of your scope, when somebody comes to you and says, hey, what about this thing or that thing? Or can you hop on an additional call? Then you know, okay, does this fall under my list of delights? Is this something that I said that I was going to charge for? What was expressed to the client? And you can easily refer back to the contract and or the welcome packet that you have delivered to them, or the welcome note or pamphlet, or however you deliver it based on your industry. You can easily refer back to that and say, I am happy to get on that additional call. It's listed here as this fee. Did you want me to set that up? And so we need to be better as women about not shying away from knowing our value and being willing to ask for what we want. But we need a sturdy foundation to be able to do that. And that is where setting those expectations comes in. Another thing that you can do that's really helpful for this is, and this is right along the lines of like client retention, client experience, client satisfaction, is to ensure that you have some sort of feedback process and procedure in place. Too many companies and businesses do not take this seriously. And then they wonder why they're always chasing more clients and more clients. If a larger percentage of your focus is on new sales versus the people that you have in place, the clients and customers that you have, your base, then you've got it wrong. You should be nurturing and making sure that the people that you have are happy, are doing well, are getting the results that they want. And if they're not, fixing it. Because your customers and clients are the people that are with you already. And if they have a good experience, they will send you more clients, which means the sales pressure comes off of you. And so I think it's a really important question for business owners to really be honest with themselves about and ask, like, am I providing a good service? And once again, if we're assuming that we're providing a good service because we're just doing what we've always done and not asking our clients and customers if we're doing well, then we're doing ourselves, our business, and our clients a disservice. And so my contract term with clients is 12 months. It's a full year. And so in the middle of that contract time, I send a feedback form that, of course, is strategic for my business because I can gather a testimonial, but it's also strategic for my business because it allows me to improve. I'm asking my clients, what do you want more of? What do you want less of? Am I meeting expectations? Like, really, and I ask them to be honest with me, and it's at that midway point for a reason. Wouldn't you like to know if you are not meeting somebody's expectations so that you can change it? So we're basically creating multiple checkpoints here for you. We're creating that upfront checkpoint of some sort of written and verbal delivery of expectations and what is included and what they're paying for, right? And then we're creating some sort of pulse check of how are we doing, right? And so we can course correct if necessary or have a conversation so that we can retain clients and provide a good service. And then we are also being clear on our back end of what our boundaries are with how we are delighting, how we are over delivering, and then what falls under things that we will charge and will hold our standard for. And that is where the gray area is that I do think that for me personally, if my private clients get 2 calls a month with me virtually after we do our VIP day. And if one of my clients is struggling with something, we have a problem, of course, I'm going to, if I have the space in my calendar, I'm going to offer them a time that I can help them that is sooner. And that is both a product of me having the freedom and flexibility in my calendar to do that. And also knowing that my role with my clients is to be a true partner to them. And so I think you have people that are kind of on one of 2 extremes. We have the people who are so rigid that client satisfaction is dwindling. And then we have people who are running themselves into the ground to meet clients' needs and feeling resentful and frustrated. So that is why we establish these things, these expectations, the welcome packet, the pulse check, and knowing how you're going to delight. Having these 3 things in place for your business is so important because clarity, communication, expectations, these are the things that are always recurring. If you go into any sort of dysfunction or emotion that you feel around your business or where it's not efficient or where clients are dropping off, like it's going to be connected to one of these things. And so this is the gray area that we're building. We do need to provide a good service, period. If you're not providing a good service, that is the first thing you need to fix. But if you don't know what you can do better and you're assuming and you're not asking your clients and customers, then you're missing the point, right? So make sure that you have a feedback process in place. This is something that we will implement into all of my clients' businesses. And it is tremendously helpful, not because it helps them to provide a better service, which obviously, but because it takes the pressure off them. I think that one of the things that is not spoken about as much as it should be is obviously the mental load that we carry as mothers and business owners. And we try to solve so much ourselves instead of relying on the support system that is around us, right? So be that through delegation, but you have people who are working with you, who are in your business. And this is why I say ask for feedback from your team too. Anytime I have an idea, I don't just go into, hey, I have this idea, here's what we're going to do. I'm like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it? What could we do differently? And then we go into like planning the steps of that. So I think creating that collaborative environment with your team is really important, but also with your clients. Like they have been on the receiving end. I have hired my clients to do services, and it's so beautiful, like how we can exchange, like, hey, okay, switching chairs, being on the receiving end, like this is what I noticed going through your process. And people are so thankful when you ask them for feedback because it really shows when we talk about over delivering and providing a good client experience, it really shows how much you care because you're saying, hey, did I do a good job and what could I do better? I don't even ask, am I doing a good job? I say, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? I want to hear constructive criticism, and we can't shy away from this. I'm very fortunate in that the responses that I get on that are, not that helpful a lot of times because there's not much there. But I've received some great feedback about different things that were so easy to implement because I'm like, okay, every person is different. And that's the thing in my field, obviously with coaching, is it is heavily personalized. So I have my boundaries. I have the way that I do things. I have the things that I teach consistently. I have my expertise in the things that I know. But then that also has to be blended with some people require a little more structure. Some people want a little more accountability. Some people want a more hands-off approach. And if I don't know that, because I'm not asking those questions, then I can't tailor the experience to them. And so these are really things for you to think about implementing into your business so that you can, again, create that better client experience, retain more customers, and not be frustrated about what you're providing because everybody's on the same page. And that is where, when things get blurry, when things get murky, be that with a client or team, we start making assumptions, and that is where a lot of dysfunction and problems stem from. So we want to create as much clarity as possible of expectations, and we want to make sure that we're asking those questions and doing those pulse checks. So the things that I want you to take away from this episode today and start implementing immediately in your business is clearly defining your services and your expectations right from the start. Then, since those are communicated clearly, I want you to communicate your boundaries assertively and professionally. Yes, I will, or no, I won't. The other option here is that you can offer alternative solutions to things that they may come to you that are out of scope, right? So if somebody comes to my client who is an interior designer and it's very easy for people to just want to add on extra rooms. Well, what about this hallway over here? What about all? And so we had to redefine, even with the language of it's a space, not a room, right? Because a hallway is a space. It requires her expertise, her time, etc. And so she can say, I cannot add that space on for free. I could give you an accessory for a different room if you wanted to add on that space for a cost. And so there are always alternative, again, delights. And that's why I say, know clearly in your head, what are the ways in which you want to delight people? What are the ways in which it feels good for you to give? And then what are the hard no's? What are the hard boundaries? So know what those alternative solutions are, know what those delights are. That's the third thing. And then lastly, you need to know when to say no and when it's time to renegotiate your terms. And that again will be a product of knowing those ways to delight and those boundaries. So think about your business, think about implementing that clarity up front, what you can do, whether that's a welcome packet, a pamphlet. Ideally, you are expressing these boundaries and giving clarity verbally and in written form. Think about how you can implement a feedback procedure so you are making sure that you are meeting and or exceeding client expectations. And then make your list of what your boundaries are, what you're willing to delight with, what you are going to say no to, what are some alternative solutions that you can provide for people that are asking for certain things. And that will help you tremendously. So thank you guys so much for listening today. I hope that I've given you some permission, once again, to evaluate your boundaries, to look at your current client relationships, to look at your business as a whole and see how you can improve your services and the processes and procedures to make sure that there are no assumptions and there is full clarity. And of course, please share this episode. Tag me on Instagram at the Mom Founders Table. I love to hear your insights, your feedback, right? So I'm always asking for feedback from you guys. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? How can I help? Again, this is here as a tool to help you and really make sure that you're being the best mother, business owner, leader, human that you can be. And so I love to hear any problems or difficulties that you're dealing with in your business so I can address those here, because I guarantee somebody else is dealing with it. So thank you again for listening. Please tag me If you want to grab the Female Founders Freedom Framework, that is still available for free. The link for that is in the show notes. And of course, you can click that, and that is going to assess 8 different areas of your business, tell you how to make sure you are set up to be a freedom-based business instead of having a business that runs you into the ground. And next week, we are talking all about elevating your standards to stop operating from a place of fear. Too many business owners are running their business owners from scarcity, urgency, and fear, and it is really, truly killing us and killing our quality of life. I'm going to teach you all about evaluating your standards, how to raise your standards, what this looks like in business, and help you guys to get some relief because operating from a place of fear can really destroy you. So thank you again for listening, and I will see you guys next week.